I will explain the technique called Kihnu Troi Cast On or Braided Cast On. This is a technique of cast on that uses two colors. The zigzag pattern is arranged in two alternating colors. First, let's look at the structure of this pattern. The V-shaped pattern part at the bottom is the so-called chain stitches. This pattern is made by adding one thread to the chain stitch. In other words, Kihnu Troi Cast On is a technique that enhances the decorativeness by making a chain stitches with two colored threads and exposing the floats to the surface. Even if you suddenly do it in two colors, it will be confusing, so let's check the basic movements with only one color first. Start from the state where slip knot is hung on the left needle. First we knit yarn over, followed by knit stitch. The method of yarn over is a little special, and it is hung from the other side of the needle to the front. Then move the knit stitch back to the left needle. Yarn over, knit stitch. Return the knit stitch. Repeat this procedure. This means that only yarn over is hanging on the right needle, and the knit stitch is used as a base. If you remove it from the needle, you can see that this is exactly the chain stitches. There is one caveat here. Since the method of yarn over was special, the way of threading on the needle is the opposite of normal. Therefore, in the second row, you have to insert a needle-like knit through the back loop. If you forget this and insert a needle normally, you will get a twisted stitch. Now let's do it with two colors. The basic movement of yarn over, knit stitch. Return the knit stitch is the same as for one color, and the point is how to handle the float. First, make slip knots and set them on the left needle. Here is a trick to keep the yarn balls from getting tangled later onto the left and right. Make a knit stitch with the left yarn. Now, consider that the right needle has the first stitch and the left needle has one stitch as the base. Bring the left thread to the front of the right needle. This is a preparation for later appearing on the surface of the fabric as a float. Bring the thread which next to use between the needles to the other side. Yarn over and knit stitch. Bring the thread you placed in front of the right needle to the front of the fabric. This is the setup for starting cast on. From here on, repeat the same movement. Move the stitch back to the left needle. Place the thread of the stitch you just returned in front of the right needle. Bring the thread you are about to use through between the needles to the other side. Yarn over and knit stitch. Pull the thread placed in front of the right needle to adjust the size of the base stitch. Bring the thread you just pulled to the front of the fabric. Here is the point. When bringing the thread to the front, if the thread is on the right side, put it forward from the right side of the needle, and if it is the thread on the left, forward from the left side of the needle. This way the thread will not get tangled. Now let's repeat the previous set several times. Return the stitch. Thread in front of the right needle. Bring the thread to the other side. Yarn over, knit stitch. Pull the thread to adjust the size of the base stitch and bring it to the front. Repeat this procedure. The method of handling the thread is certainly complicated, but if you know that it is an operation to expose the float to the surface, I think that you can knit without confusion. If you knit in this way, the end of knitting will have the same color. If you want to make a loop, you can connect the patterns continuously by putting the last stitch on the first stitch. In the second row, don't forget to insert a needle-like knit through the back loop. That was the commentary of Kihnu Troi Cast On. If you know the structure and mechanism, it seems that it is likely to knit if not easy. However, there is no doubt that the way to move the thread is somewhat confusing. So I figured out an easier way to crochet. I will explain how to do it next time, so if you have a crochet hook, please take a look there too. Thank you for your viewing.